with the most recent loss to the Los Angeles Lakers, we are learning one thing, and one thing important about the Golden State Warriors. It comes from the 48 laws of power. One of the first rules, if not the first rule, never outshine the master. The Warriors are suffering from outshining the master. Here's what I mean. Steph Curry came out recently talking about the loss to Los Angeles Lakers, and one of the key things that he mentioned was the fact that a lot of teams want to beat them, and they want to beat them pretty badly.
Since you want to take from this kind of game.
I think the biggest thing, Draymond said it a little bit at halftime. We have to remember that even when we're playing well, we won 3 in a row. You know, teams still want to beat us and beat us bad. They still have, you know, a lot of memories from the last 5-6 years. So I think a lot of that is you have to, against the really good teams, those disciplines that separate a good team from a great team have to show up.
Steph Curry is alluding to the amount of dominance and the run that the Golden State Warriors basically had for like the past, I want to say 5 to 6 years, because it started, I believe it was 2015, they won the championship. 2016 they lost the championship. 2017 they won. 2018 they won. 2019 they lost. But you gotta see, for 5 to 6 straight years they were in the NBA Finals as a team. Now that's unheard of. Like Miami Heat went there 4 times. You know, the three-peat Lakers, they went there like 3 times, and you know, in a consecutive span. But for the Warriors to be there consistently, getting out of the West, having one of the best regular season of all time, to getting Kevin Durant, arguably one of, you know, he's gonna go down top 10 maybe in the NBA ever, to having one of the best teams of all time, the most stacked, or whatever you want to call it, just one of the best teams of all time. And it was crazy for Draymond Green to actually say, you know, a lot of teams want to beat us and they want to beat us bad, reminding Steph and them like, hey, like, this is just par for the course. And that basically shows that they have an understanding of where they are. You know, the thing about the Warriors, a lot of people tend not to really want to admit, is they were bad for a long time. They were horrible. I mean, you got to remember, like, I used to watch these games, and I'm saying when you compare them to now, like, they used to have, like, Monte Ellis, and there was a time where Monte Ellis was a starter, and Steph was coming off the bench, and then they went through the doldrums. They had, like, Steven Jackson, you know, after the We Believe, but he left, like, a year prior to Steph really getting off. But Steph was coming off the bench. Guys wasn't really sure about him. The team wasn't necessarily sure about his trajectory. They got Mark Jackson, got into the playoffs. But, I mean, they went to a 7-game series with the Clippers. Clippers beat them in 7. The Spurs beat them when they had Richard Jefferson. They had a lot of down years, right? So then it's kind of crazy. It's like they've been down, and then they got up. And what happened was, when they got up, like I said previously, they start to outshine the masters. You see what I'm saying? Like, they started doing things that they weren't necessarily supposed to do. Brian Windhorst came out years ago, said a lot of teams didn't like the way that the Warriors were showboating. They were celebrating on the court every little play. They just hated that. They felt like it was classless. It was always an issue with the Warriors in class, right? Always with class. Always with class, right? But at the end of the day, this was what really happened, and this is things people don't want to admit. A lot of the people, they could take it. I mean, they could dish it out, but they just can't take it. Steph Curry and the Warriors, they're one of those teams that they could take an ass whooping. They could take somebody laughing and joking at them. Remember, I think it was Game 6, Chris Paul hit a shimmy on Steph Curry after Steph Curry was shimmying. But when it comes to the other way around, it's like a vendetta, V for vendetta, and we need to prove our point. Like, y'all beat us, but guess what? Y'all not as powerful. Y'all not as good. We coming to stomp y'all. And that's what happened. Steph Curry and the Warriors and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, they outshine the Masters. You gotta look, and what I mean is, think about this. The league complained about them. That's one master. Then, like LeBron and Curry, when Curry came in the league, when Curry would go to Cleveland and play in Cleveland, he was went to LeBron's house a couple of times. Went to the bowling alley, had a good time. When Steph Curry was coming up, he was going to CP3's camps. And those guys, LeBron, if you notice, the two guys I mentioned, they have a running feud essentially with Steph Curry. And I mean on the court. Like where LeBron has lost, 3 championships to Curry and Kevin Durant and stuff like that. But also CP3, he's one of the best point guards of all time, but he couldn't necessarily get past the hump when the Warriors got their stuff together. Because CP3 was they were eliminating them. So basically he outshined the guys that felt like they were ushering him into the game. Like, look, this is the ropes. This is what you do. And then they're like looking like this dude over here. He done elevated, and people were saying like they don't feel like he comes from the same struggle. He didn't earn the game like they earned the game, and all this hate started coming out because all he was doing, he came up under them and then he outshined them for a certain extent, and that put a bad taste in their mouth. That's why like when you watch the games, teams relish beating them, which is very, very funny because they're remembering the last 5 or 6 years, but they're not really remembering the 5 or 6 years prior when Draymond Green was coming off the bench and Mark Jackson took a chance on him, or when Steph Curry was drafted and they drafted Klay and they were like, well, these kind of guys are, they're both shooters. Like, how is this gonna work? Like, they were close to trading Klay at one point, close to trading Steph at one point. I mean, just really think about that, right? We all see the success. We don't see the small incremental changes that made the Warriors the Warriors. Now, this is the one thing, though, that is kind of crazy to me, is these guys are still taking it personal, what Steph and Draymond and all those guys did to them. They looked at the celebrating, the high-fiving as a personal dig to their character. And what that really shows me is just that they don't understand the nature of the beast. That's what's supposed to happen. When you're losing or you're a bad team, you're supposed to get stomped. You see what I'm saying? And it's nothing personal. It's just what it is. If somebody's better than you at something, they're not going to tone it down so you can catch up. They're going to keep going, until you figure out how to stop them. You know what I'm saying? If something works, you keep using it. The teams now, they're like figuring like, hey, man, like they're done. No KD, no Klay. We're not going to see their faces again. And the worst possible thing happened to the league. Steph Curry, he essentially is in the MVP race, and the Warriors are fighting for a playoff spot. That's like one of the worst things that could happen to these guys' egos. Because what that shows you is the team, damn, we got a break from them last year. They didn't do anything. Lakers won the championship, the bubble, etc. They're like, this year, like, this dude can't just go away. And that's the worst thing, because essentially what that tells you is the Warriors have lasting power. They have staying power. Steph and Klay, when Klay comes back, if he comes back healthy, even I would say 90% or whatever the case is, because his game is not athleticism, it's shooting and defending. If he comes back 90%, the league is in trouble, guys. And that's the problem. Like, even without Klay, they're in the playoffs. And that signals trouble. Like, so you guys just don't understand what I'm explaining to you. No Klay. KD's gone. He has a bunch of G Leaguers and, Kelly Oubre. He has some guys, not even B-list, kind of C-list guys. I'm not going to call Kelly Oubre C-list. I think he's like a B-list player to me. And I'm just throwing that out there because he could be great. But now you're looking at a team like, it's like, if they do get into the playoffs, are you counting on Steph not getting going on a streak? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, they're dangerous even when they're not supposed to be. That doesn't make any sense to the guys that are upset with that. See, they were supposed to go away. They were supposed to disappear. They were supposed to be 0-30. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to be 10-20. That was supposed to be their record right now. They in the playoffs right now, and that's the worst thing that can happen to the psychological psyche of these guys, because that is why they're coming down so hard and trying to assert their dominance. When they're up, you know, they're rubbing it in, they're pushing it in, which they should. But what they don't understand is all the Warriors are doing is playing par for the course. They're writing down, taking down a couple names. Oh yeah, you still mad about that? We'll see you down the line. And that's kind of the attitude they have, which is very dangerous, guys. And I think, like I said before, worst thing could have happened is Warriors are in the playoff hunt. Because if they actually make it to a certain seed, a 6th seed, a 5th seed, or anything like that, then all that tells you is you guys aren't on your job whooping their ass enough. Hoops Junction, Hoops means hoopla. Like, comment, subscribe.